Jillian, welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited you carved out some time on your Sunday afternoon for me and in your chateau here. And, I love being around and talking to people like you. You have a very unique type of energy that's very contagious. Like you're just going for things all the time, and there's just this really cool attitude you have. And I'm really grateful you're carving out some time today. So thank you and welcome to the show.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome.
That's great.
So take us through kind of your journey from, let's start with like the transition leaving kind of post-secondary and kind of give us like a heads up on that and then bring us kind of full circle to where we are now.
So like right after high school. Yeah. So at that time in my life, I was not overly convinced or I didn't have a straight line of exactly where I wanted to go. Even my career, I wasn't certain that it was going to pan out as well as it has. I got into hairstyling a year after high school, and this is what I'm still doing today. My mom had a life-saving liver transplant when I was 15, so that was in 2004 when I was also diagnosed with the disease that I have. So I knew that was something that was going to play a part in my future. At the time, I didn't know how soon I would become ill and eventually need a liver transplant. So I think that kind of dampened my my ambition and my future goals, not really knowing what was in store in my future as far as my health went. So it was early 20s. I was into marathon, not so much marathon running, but definitely endurance running, and I had done a couple half marathon runs before I started to get sick. And so that's when sort of my life changed and pivoted towards like organ donation being a really, really important part of my life. And it was at that time when I really had to prioritize my health, and I really had no other option because my health was failing in my early 20s.
Yeah. How do you go about, like, how do you understand something like that at such a young age? It seems like a lot.
It was a lot.
To go through,
I don't think I fully understood it at the time. All I had was the example of my mom having been through a transplant, so I had that to look to see what could potentially happen. I knew that we're different people and my path wouldn't necessarily be the same as hers, but I tried to look to her as a positive example of overcoming that obstacle. And I think it is my nature to remain positive despite the challenges that were brought up in those years and in that time.
So when you realize that would be affecting you, right? Whether it be with the unknown, right? Because it honestly sounds like there's kind of, you don't really know how that's going to affect you, right? And I'm trying to understand from somebody looking in how that kind of plays an effect on what you want to do in terms of like your, whether it be athletic accomplishments or your goals that you have, whether for like career or whatnot. Like how does that affect that? Like does that get put on the back burner, all that stuff, or you kind of just wait out, or you go, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it?
For me, it was more of like, I'll cross that bridge when I get there, but for now I know I have to focus on what I'm able to do today in that particular moment. And for me, that was just, I had just started my career as a hairstylist, so any dreams or ideas of like accomplishing a big swim, or that was like not even in my mind. It was like, okay, get through this, like don't get lost in dying, essentially. Like just get through what you can now, so that hopefully I can have a future. And I didn't know if it meant I would need a liver transplant. I didn't know that it would mean that I wouldn't be able to work for a couple of years. And that's eventually what ended up happening, but it was more like just take it one day at a time.
I hear you talk about this, and I've had actually a gentleman on the podcast before, and he's actually donated a piece of his liver to his uncle.
That's
And
amazing.
so, yeah, I can't remember. I think it was like 2019. Like maybe. Oh no, I should know this. I should know this, shouldn't I?
A couple years ago.
Yeah, back in the, not quite back in the day, but yeah. So it's really cool to hear you say that. And I guess what, switching gears a little bit, how did kind of swimming come into the picture? Like when did you kind of start? Like you started probably when you were younger?
Yeah, I swam when I was a kid. I think I started swimming when I was 4 and did lessons. I was on a swim team, so I was very familiar with like swim practice and pumping out lots of lengths in the pool. I swam until I was like 15, and that was the time when my mom got really sick, and that was the time when I stopped swimming and stopped doing things that brought me joy. Essentially, I kind of went into a downward spiral, but it was right after my literally right after I had my transplant. Somebody came into my hospital room where I was recovering, and he handed me a brochure, and it was all about the World Transplant Games, and I hadn't heard about the World Transplant Games until right after I had my transplant. And I saw in this brochure that swimming was a sport that you could participate in, and it was literally then and there in that moment I was like, I need to do that. Like the next following World Games were a year away in Spain, and that's where I set my first goal. I'm going to compete at the World Transplant Games in swimming next year. And so it was 2 months after my transplant, I got a membership to the Y.
Nice.
I got back in the pool. I started swimming again. And swimming became a huge part of my life after my transplant. And I attribute the sport of swimming to the majority of my recovery, physically, mentally. Yeah, it gave me... First of all, I did start swimming alone, but I started swimming with a team, and it brought me this feeling of like belonging, and it made me feel like I was regaining some confidence that I had lost, and some strength, all of my strength I had lost after having my transplant and being sick for so long. So swimming just became something that I was totally invested in, and as part of keeping myself healthy and honoring my organ donor and my liver. So swimming just became that thing that, like, I'm a swimmer now. This is how I now identify, because after having my transplant, I was a bit lost in like, okay, well, my life was going so fast downhill, and then it got turned around like in one day, and it was like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Like, now what do I do? And swimming became that home for me, where I felt like I had a new place to be.
That's amazing.
If that makes sense.
No, it does for sure.
Yeah.
And you go. I feel it sounds like going from somewhere where you might feel so alone, and then to all of a sudden be surrounded by people, and especially it sounds like at the World Transplant Games as well, where it's people who the walk a mile in my shoes kind of things. Like they all did that as well.
They've all have their similar story of overcoming.
Jeez.
And there was like hundreds and hundreds of athletes that had a transplant, whether it was heart, kidney, liver, lungs, or double transplants recipients. Yeah, so you meet people with these crazy stories about how they nearly lost their lives, and it just brings together this feeling of belonging, and it's changed my life. It's given me something to focus on that's really positive, and it's become a passion of mine to promote organ donation awareness, and and encourage others to do the same thing. So
how so I had never heard of anything like the Transplant Games until I kind of started following your story. And tell me what those are like to compete. Like what's that energy like there, and how do you even train for that? Like, is it similar? Like, what are the categories like?
So,
tell me about it.
Yeah, so the World Transplant Games is essentially a sporting competition for anyone who has had an organ transplant. And the structure is kind of similar to the Olympics. the World Transplant Games is recognized by the International Olympic Committee, so it's not technically Olympics,
Right.
but there are hopes that one day we'll have a category in the Paralympics.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, it sounds like it's like a next door neighbor to it.
It's a next door neighbor. There's definitely a push for it by certain individuals within the transplant community. Whether it happens,
That'd be so cool.
It would be very cool. It'd be very cool.
That's awesome.
And I don't see why like we shouldn't have a place there, because
For sure.
like I said, the camaraderie of people that have similar stories, have been through similar things.
Yeah.
So that makes for a very friendly competition. So like you're cheering for everyone. You're cheering the loudest for whoever comes in last, because you know what they've been through.
Yeah.
And yes, there's competition, and some stronger than others. I myself, I'm very competitive, so when I go to the games, like, I don't just want to have fun, like, I actually want to win.
Yeah, you want to win. 100%.
I want to win.
Yeah.
So,
What else are you there?
so the training, like, it depends. There's some people that come to the World Transplant Games who just want to, like, bowl. Like, there's bowling is one of the...
Oh, no way.
Bowling,
That's cool.
darts, they have, like, pickleball, I think, in some countries. There's swimming, all athletics, like track and field. There's a 5K road race, which I've participated in. For me, like, I love swimming on a master's team. It's the best place for me to train, because there's other people to kind of train against and train with, and you have a coach, so that helps you reach your goals as far as like the times you want to make and the events you want to compete in. So yeah, the World Transplant Games, they're every 2 years. The next games are in Australia in 2023, so that's gonna be
No way.
yeah, so that's pretty exciting. So I'll
Yeah,
be
no
training for
kidding.
those. Well, I already am technically.
Yeah.
It's just a bit far away right now, but
That's wild.
yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, when you say master swimming, and I think anybody who really enjoys swimming growing up or is in that community and kind of isn't sure, like wants to get better at swimming, but not so much like in the form of adult lessons, right? Which there's nothing wrong with, like I've taught them in the past. But master swimming, I think, is the community of it, and growing up, my folks partake in that. They still do now. So growing up kind of and going to these events in like Etobicoke or Montreal and seeing like just like you said, cheering the loudest for that 89-year-old man who's coming in last or woman coming in last, and there's like somebody who's 103 years old and she's swimming a 1500.
Yeah, you cheer for
just,
that
it's
lady.
Incredible. You're clapping. You don't know how many laps she's got left.
Yeah.
She's swimming for 25 minutes. You're like, this is great.
Yeah,
this is great.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think gets missed a lot with like different types of sports. I think the community around swimming, and it's just something that's missed.
I agree. I wish that there was more hype around swimming.
Yeah.
But
Especially in Canada.
in Canada, yeah, I know. Like the ISL. Are you familiar with the ISL, the International
Like I
Swimming
know
League?
of, but not so much.
Yeah,
in it,
I think that's a push to promote swimming and grow the sport. But yeah, you're right. In Canada, there's not a huge.
Yeah, and I think it's like there needs to be more like good Canadians push it. Like other than Penny Alexiak, we all are kind of like, who else is there, right? It's like it's very, very specific. But that's like she's an outlier of an outlier, right? Mm-hmm. So that's yeah, it's frustrating to see because there's like I've gone to jiu-jitsu tournaments, basketball tournaments, soccer tournaments, you name it, right? The camaraderie there versus the swimming events is like there's like the same amount of people, but the energy is very different.
Yeah,
right?
I think there's a lack of understanding of the sport. Like part of it, I think, is because it's not really on TV. Maybe in the Olympics, but like I don't really watch hockey, but like I know enough about it. Whereas like swimming, if you're talking to a non-swimmer, they probably can't tell you anything about the events or what a swim meet looks like.
Was it? There was a time we were watching. I think it was Michael Phelps's 100 meter that he did in Beijing, where he like won by like 1/100th of a second.
Yeah.
Right. That crazy. I've like
Chad Leclos.
yeah, exactly. And I had thank you. I was blanking for whatever reason, but I had one of my good friends over who I'm actually picking up tomorrow, and he was on the couch with my folks and I and my little brother, and we're watching, and we're so invested. Like, yeah, he's coming up. He came up too high on a split turn. And just everything from like positioning to like too into it. He's like, oh, I don't give a shit. Like, it's like me watching basketball, and I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
He
it
doesn't
is
really know what to look for.
exactly right.
Yeah.
I think it is like you said, like it's like a unawareness around it.
Yeah.
And at the club that I train at, I have a lot of friends of mine who are like, oh man, what do you like for cardio? What's the best thing for cardio? I'm like, all right, we're gonna break it down to a science. And they're like, oh, like, I'm cycling 30K a week, and other guys like, yeah, I run 10, and I'm like, I just swim 3.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to swim like, so Matthew's 350K swim that he's attempting. Crazy, we'll get into that later.
Yes.
But, so he's attempting to do that. I told him, I was like, dude, to help you in this process and to get me back into swimming, I'm going to swim 10K with you for like a duration of, on the beginning of one of the days, right? Just like as a cool challenge for myself, because I got my own issues with open water swimming, which we'll get to later.
Okay.
But doing that and that process, I started doing that, and then me at the gym was very different, because like just the rounds we would have, my cardio was just up, and everyone was like, and I'm like, how's the biking 30 kilometers?
Yeah.
Like, oh, what are you doing for cardio? I'm like, swimming, man, it's the best.
Yeah.
Like, they don't understand.
I think it's the breath control too.
That's 100% what I attribute it to.
Yes, not being able to just like inhale and exhale like 3 times a second. Like you really have to focus on planning your breaths.
Right?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's something you can't control. Like I go, yeah, you can breathe whenever you want, right? Except in the water.
Yes.
Like, Mother Nature kind of takes over, or the pool in this case.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So how did that take me through kind of from the World Transplant Games and competing and going to, I'm going to now do this crazy swim across Lake Ontario? How did that whole process go through?
So it was early 2020. I believe the pandemic had started, and I was reading some books. In particular, I'll name the books. Find a Way by Diana Nyad, and then I also read, I'm blanking on his name, Ross Edgley's book, The Great British Swim.
Yes.
That one in particular, where he swam all the way around Great Britain.
Crazy, yeah.
Right? And so inspiring.
Very,
and so all around this time, it was probably March 2020, and we're kind of waiting to hear about like what events are going to be canceled. Sure enough, the World Transplant Games in Houston in 2021 were canceled. So like myself and like my friends that I met at the games, we were like so devastated, right? Because they're only every 2 years. We're looking forward to it.
Houston's pretty close too.
It's,
in
like,
comparison to Spain and Australia.
And that was sort of like part of the excitement is like, well, like instead of flying to Spain or flying to Newcastle, where I have been to games, it was like, okay, we're going to the States. Didn't happen. So I started thinking like, I still want to promote organ donation, and I still want to do something this year. Like I don't want to just sit back and like wait for things to reopen. So I had in the past few years, I think I started in early 2018, I started doing shorter open water distance races. So I've done a couple 3Ks, I've done a couple 5K open water swims and done fairly well at them. And that's sort of what introduced me into swimming in the open water, not just in the pool. And I discovered how much I loved it. And just being in the open water, more in touch with nature and in these conditions that were not always predictable. Like I really started to enjoy that. So I started thinking, and kind of being inspired by these books about open water swimmers that I had read. I thought, well, I think I want to do my own big swim.
Nice.
And I don't think I want to swim across an ocean, but perhaps I could swim across a Great Lake. And then I got online and started researching different routes across different bodies of water, and Lake Ontario was like the most challenging as far as distance and the unpredictability of the currents and the waves and what happens in Lake Ontario when you approach Toronto, because I swam from Niagara-on-the-Lake to Toronto. and I can talk about that later, like the whole current thing. And so like the research began, and I decided like I'm gonna swim across Lake Ontario next summer, and I'm gonna start training like today. And even though the pools were closed and the lake was frozen, I began mentally wrapping my mind around what this is going to take, and started researching, what it's like to do a swim that's like more than an hour, because that's currently all I had ever done up until that point. So that's kind of where the idea was born, and I invited my friends that I'd met at the Transplant Games to be a part of it, and that's when we created the Move for Life Foundation, so that we could raise awareness and funds around the swim to promote organ donation.
That's so cool. Mm-hmm. And didn't you guys you raised the amount of money for the machine you were trying to?
We did
Purchase, right?
Yeah. So we set a goal of $250,000 to raise. We've raised to date a little bit over $180,000.
Amazing.
Which is incredible. And to be honest, it kind of like blew me away that we were able to do that in the period of time that we did.
You don't say,
year. I know.
I was just trying to wrap my brain around, like, that's incredible.
I know, and going back and watching the documentary that you've watched, like that's when it kind of hits me. I'm like, whoa, like I trained to swim across the lake, but I didn't do it alone, but we also raised so much money, and we were able to purchase a piece of equipment for the transplant program that saved my life, so that they can keep doing what they're doing and save more lives and help people out in the position that I was once in. So that is like totally fulfilling to have been able to do that.
I can imagine. Like, it seems like so many things going on at almost like one time, and I look at kind of what you've done, how many things kind of, it seems like we're going, like there's the documentary going, right, there's the foundation, and there's the swim, not to mention the training, not just the physical training, but the mental training. Yeah. Which for me would be, a lot for sure. Like, I'm sure, like, between cold plunges and then, like, I was actually thinking about this on the way up. Do you want to have, like, do you have an, athletic, psychiatrist? No. Like,
sports psychologist?
Sports psychologist, thank you.
I have
blanking on that.
I have worked with one before. His name is Mario, and he approached me in 2017 when I began training for the first World Transplant Games.
Oh, nice.
And when he heard about the swim that I was doing, he reached out to me again, and he gave me, kind of reminded me of all the things that he had shown me earlier, and as well as the sports psychologist, I was very fortunate to have a really great mentor. His name is John Scott, and John actually was my swim master for my swim across Lake Ontario.
Nice.
And the swim master is somebody who is very familiar with the swim across the lake, and he's on the swim to ensure that safety protocols and all of that are followed, and also just to ensure that the swim can be ratified, and like at the end of the swim you can say, yep, she did it, and it was she followed the rules and she didn't touch the boat. But he has accompanied, like, I think he said something like close to 20 people across lakes, so he's so experienced in swimming across Great Lakes. And so I was very fortunate to have communication with him throughout the year leading up to the swim. He helped me prepare mentally, physically as well, like immensely, like so much. I couldn't thank him enough for what he's done to help me prepare.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I probably couldn't have done it without somebody like him, because he really really knew what to tell me, not only before the swim, but like during the swim. He never once told me, when I was struggling. He just encouraged me to keep going. So
nice.
Yeah.
I was wondering, that's cool. And he's done the swims.
He's done the swim. Like he's successfully crossed the lake twice, and he in fact holds the fastest record across Lake Ontario.
Come on.
Just to give you like comparison, my time was 18 hours 36 minutes across Lake Ontario.
Flippin'. Well, from the footage I saw, I'm like, she's moving.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I was moving pretty quick,
Yeah.
about 3K an hour, and he finished in like 14 hours and 40 minutes. So
What are you saying? That's crazy.
I know. So he was
Oh,
probably
man.
doing like, I haven't done the math, but it must be like at least 1:30 per 100 meters. I don't know, maybe even faster.
Clipping.
You can do that in the pool, but open water is different.
Yeah, I would say. Jeez, man. Like there's a lot that goes into that. Like I've done a handful of, obviously no Great Lakes yet. Maybe one day we'll see. Yeah, yet. But because I've swam in lakes in the past. I've been in all the Great Lakes. I just haven't swam like distance wise. But the fear of open water, like the intimidation aspect of it, is what kind of is making this 10K challenge that I'm gonna do a little bit like, because the swim, yeah, a little scary for sure. So I'm like, well, what was the mental training like? Feel like, what was that process like of getting into that? Like, do you set out going, I'm just gonna do these like challenges for my brain, or do you go in with okay, here's the goal towards the end of the mental game, like just show up every day for X amount of days, and then we're gonna make it happen? Or I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So I knew that the end goal was to swim across the lake, and I knew that I had, like at the beginning of my training, I had done such a tiny amount compared to where I had to go. So I knew that I had to build over time.
Right.
I knew that I had to train. Well, I knew that I wanted to train every single day leading up to that swim, with a few rest days here and there. But I really wanted to teach my body that I had to keep going even when it was really hard, when I was really tired, because swimming across a Great Lake, that's what I was going to face. I didn't want my training to be easy.
No,
I didn't. Yeah, so I had to wrap my mind around hard training, swimming in the worst conditions, so that I could be prepared for all of it. Mm-hmm. So each training session was not only just physical training, but it was mental training in itself, because I was showing up every day to do something new that I hadn't done before, whether it was swimming in colder water, swimming in rougher conditions, swimming further. There was a lot of elements to each training day that I had never experienced before. So I really had to break it down into, okay, today the goal is you're going to swim 5K. If it's too cold, okay, wear a wetsuit so you can get the distance in.
Smart.
And then there were days where it was, okay, the lake is warm enough and I don't have to swim as far today, so I'm going to stick it out for an hour and probably be very cold. So each day, like, the goal kind of changed, but it was all to bring me towards swimming the lake at the end of it all. But the biggest message in all of this was believing in myself, like that I could do it. I think that's something that I learned. That's what I learned the most about swimming across Lake Ontario, was how important it was to believe that I was going to do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. When it comes to the goal setting process, not just for mentally, but throughout the whole thing, is it the same approach you take for each section? You just compartmentalize by going, okay, the mental, this is how I'm doing the goals, or then you switch up the styles or the techniques a bit, or do you just have the kind of the same approach to your goal setting for the whole swim itself?
If I understand what you mean, I think it was sort of the same approach. Definitely, like, the physical training and the mental training were separate, but I think for ease and for time, it made sense for me to just be extremely mindful when I was physically training, that I was telling myself the right messages, and also not listening to the doubts that inevitably come up when you're doing something you've never done before.
Right.
So I kind of looked at the physical training and the mental training almost as one, if that kind of makes sense.
For sure.
yeah, like I took the challenge of each day, the physical challenge, and just thought, well, if I can get through this, like it's just adding another thing to the list of things that I can say I've done, and that helped me to build my confidence and my mental strength to do the next thing.
Interesting.
Does that make
It
sense?
does, yeah. Now, throughout doing all that, because that sounds like, for an outsider, I'm sure, sounds exhausting. Right, like trying to, you're like, yeah, it was, for sure. How do you go about, while still doing all that, fundraising? Like, what was your fundraising process like? Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, the fundraising was, again, very new to me. I've never really taken on anything quite so big before. I've helped fundraise for other events, but never for my own. And I definitely could not have raised all that money or done what we have done alone. So it really involved a team of people that helped put together like a sponsorship brochure that explained what the swim was, where the money was going, being very clear about where the money was going, and creating a mission within our foundation so that the fundraising supported the mission.
Smart.
Yeah. So our mission is to reduce the wait list for anyone who's waiting for a transplant. So the money that we were raising, we raised money to purchase a piece of equipment that is going to help, without going too far into this, to help to preserve harvested organs for transplant, to increase the pool of organs that can be used for transplant, thus saving more lives. So when you're fundraising, I think it's important to be super clear to your donors about where their money is going. People want to know how it's going to help, where it's going to go, and they want to see examples of how it's working. So it was important for us to create those kinds of, like I said, a brochure or posting online. I think social media has been such a powerful tool for myself and for our team to help promote what we're doing, getting the word out. But above all else, having our story, my swim, in the paper or in the media, on the news, it really helped to promote what we were doing, and it really skyrocketed our donations. Like that's when we started receiving donations from people that we didn't know.
Nice. Okay, that was the
shift. Thing. That was the shift. But all of that couldn't have been done without having like a solid structure of like what we're doing, where the money's going, who's doing what. And like I said, having a team behind you, because like I can't be the only one going out there asking for
you gotta be in the pool.
For help. Yeah, I had to be training. In the lake. The pools were closed most of the time. So
just take a block, break the ice, and hop in. For sure. Nice.
Yeah. The fundraising was a big piece.
Yeah, it's always been something that I wonder about the proper way to go about doing that. Just because with our friends swim and seeing kind of the pieces because we're in the beginning stages of it, right? So seeing kind of how everything's coming together and the process and his attitude, amazing, love the guy. He's got the attitude of I want to enjoy the process as much as I can.
Which is great.
Right.
Yeah. He's got to have that attitude.
You have to, right?
Yes.
And so big or small, I feel that's like a need, like it's a must-have way, I guess, outlook on it. But what I'm wondering, because I'm sure you had a similar attitude towards it, do you have like a favorite moment from the process of getting to the swim, and like a least favorite moment?
Ooh, that's a good question. My favorite moment. Oh, there was lots. I don't know if I could think of a least favorite.
That's good.
Yeah, like there was definitely days where like the training was really hard. And like in the moment I was like, I'm not liking this right now. I can remember a day where it was in April, so the lake was still pretty cold, and I was determined to do this 3-hour swim without a wetsuit on. and the air was like 2 degrees. Like it was really cold. It was one of those like odd days where like the temperature just dropped.
That's gross.
Yeah. And I was at a smaller lake for this training, so the water was like hovering around 60. So okay, it's cold, but it's not like that bad. But when the air is cold,
way worse.
Is way worse. So I remember that day, like I couldn't wait for that swim to be over. So that was probably like a least favorite. But when I look back, even while I was swimming across Lake Ontario, I thought of that day a lot because I was in a bad spot in my head, but I got through it anyway, and that built the resilience that I needed to get through the hardest parts of swimming across Lake Ontario. So even all the bad stuff ended up being like really helpful in the end. And
Interesting.
You know what I mean? I would say like the most favorite would just be I'd have to say like the overall feeling of having so many people on board to help me do this. I can't really pinpoint like one specific time because there was so many where somebody would just show up. My videographer, for example, Kyle, like he would drive out to the beach to meet me to film some stuff, like totally out of his way to help me promote the swim. And then there were these other 2 young girls who made bracelets and raised like a couple $1,000s to donate to Move for Life Foundation. Like just the like how it brought people together. It's overwhelming, and I feel just so grateful that I was able to do that and to bring people together to promote a cause that means a lot to me. So I guess that was like a highlight.
Yeah. Do you meet any, like what was one, like who's one person that kind of you met over the course or I guess got connected with that had like the biggest impact, you think, on your on the journey?
That I met?
Yeah.
That I didn't know before?
Exactly.
There's a few. I already mentioned John.
Yeah.
So John was like definitely up there. My team that I knew was great. I have nothing bad to say about any of them, but I met a girl named Vanessa, and Vanessa came on board to be a pacer for the swim like a week before I did the swim. So I had pacers. Pacers, for anybody who doesn't know, are people that kind of support you in the water as you're doing the swim. So like in my case, it wasn't to keep me swimming faster. It was just to keep me motivated and for emotional support, to have somebody in the water swimming portions of Lake Ontario with me. And two pacers kind of bowed out last minute, and so I was left with only 2, and I thought, well, I should have somebody else. And Vanessa came into the picture like a week before my swim. I drove to Toronto so that I could meet her, and we did a little test swim together.
Whoa.
And as soon as I met Vanessa, there was an energy about her that I just knew was going to work.
That's so cool.
It was so cool, and I'm so grateful to have met her, and we still remain friends to this day. And she's just such a fireball. Like, she was like, I don't even care if I don't end up swimming. I just want to be there and support you and watch you make history. Yeah. Like, she had that kind of attitude.
Wow.
And on the swim, she was the first one in the water with me, and she's like, yeah, girl, like, we're gonna do this, like, let's go. Like, she just had this awesome enthusiasm and energy that she brought to the swim, and it was contagious, not just to me but to the rest of the team. And she just really added a lot to the crew across the lake. So
how important is it having, like, talk to me about the importance of having that solid team behind you?
It's everything. It's so much. And I was kind of stressed about creating my team, and I knew like the solid foundation team that was going to be there, but you can't get caught up in, well, I have a friend who swims, and I really want her to be there, but she, like, I don't really know how she's going to contribute. Like, you almost have to be, and I've said this before, you almost have to be kind of selfish about
sure.
who you're choosing to be on your crew.
Yeah.
For me, it was important to have everyone on the crew on board, has a purpose, has a job, and is positive. Like as much as I love my mom, and she is a very positive person, I didn't want my mom to be there because I knew that she would be worried, and she would
100%.
be, and if I was looking like I was struggling or having a hard time, she would be looking over the side of the boat like, oh, Jill, are you going to be okay? I did not want any of that. I didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
I was so happy to see my mom at the end of my swim, of course. But it's those kinds of decisions that I had to make to ensure that everybody that was there was in full support of what I was doing, believed in what I was going to do.
That's huge too, yeah.
Totally had to believe that I was going to do it. I didn't want to have any doubters there. And I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it, I could not have done it without my team.
Yeah.
There's no way you can swim across the lake by yourself, even if you have like one boat. Like, we needed the experienced navigator, Christine, her name is, who led the way across the lake. She got us across in like a perfect straight line.
Amazing.
Now, I could have swum 70 kilometers across Lake Ontario if I had an experienced pilot.
Yeah.
I'd be zigzagging my way across. So, like, right from there, like, so important to have a good pilot. So important to have good Zodiac drivers. Zodiacs are the support boats that were in the water beside me. So when I would turn to breathe, I would look at that boat, make sure I was staying in line with that Zodiac as it was following the lead boat. So the whole team had a place. They all had to work together.
Yeah.
The person feeding me had to know, throw the bottle in front of me, not behind me. I'm not going backwards.
Yeah, I've already been there.
I've already been there. I'm not going backwards. Reel it back in and throw it again.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And I was fortunate to have a dietitian work with me as well. So somebody that understood sports nutrition and how a swimmer digests properly while you're swimming. It's different than running. It's different than any other sport. So, so I took it very seriously to create the crew that I thought was going to support me best in getting across the lake.
It's funny you mentioned like how different it is in the nutrition wise from like the running and the swimming. I remember, so the pools are closed, right? So what my friend Matthew and I would do is every Thursday we would swim for an hour together. But when the pools closed for the whatever shutdown, X amount of weeks it was, we'd meet up on the exact same time on the Thursday we would if we were going in the pool. But instead of going in the pool, we'd lace up our Nikes and go for a run. Way worse. I'd much rather be swimming.
Yes.
But like, right? Like it's just way more fun.
Yeah.
But I just going and doing that, and then after I run, I'm like, I get there and I'm like, I know I should eat. I'm just not hungry. But after I swim, like last week, it was like the first week back in a while, and I get back in the pool and I get out and I get to my house and I'm like, look at my girlfriend, I'm like, babe, what's there to eat? And she runs off a list and I'm like, all right, cool. So then there's chicken fingers. I open up just like a couple of cheese buns, throw everything in it, and I just I'm like, gotta eat.
Yeah, it's funny how like swimming you have this crazy appetite, and running it almost takes it away.
Yeah, like you almost feel like you don't want to. It's not like a stomach upset thing, right? It's like I just don't
feel like
want
it.
to.
Yeah. And something I discovered while I was swimming across the lake was like I knew this, you're horizontal, so like I don't know if there's a difference between when you're like running and your food is digesting, or you're like swimming and your food is trying to digest. So it's like not going down the same way, and like so digestion's different.
Yeah, I guess while you're eating and then you're swimming, because I know there's that common myth. Is it a myth or a rule of like you shouldn't swim 30 minutes after you? Yeah, it's got to be a myth, right?
Because I totally ate the whole way across the lake.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I was like, no, there's no way that's got to be real. But
no, I think I ate I want to say between 3,000 and 5,000 calories across the lake.
Jeez.
Yeah, and they were segments of 40 minutes. So every 40 minutes, my team would ring a bell, and then they would throw something in the water at me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Forward, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Smart.
Yes.
Did you during the swim? I was listening to a couple of podcasts on the way up, but you said you didn't want to eat anything, or you weren't hungry at all afterwards.
Yeah.
I would have thought you'd have like a meal plan. You're like, oh my god, I'm gonna eat X amount of bacon and like some Big Macs, whatever.
I did. I even like posted about it. I was like, what should I eat right after my swim? And then a couple of marathon swimmers actually chimed in, and they were like, you're not gonna be hungry. And I was like, I find that hard to believe. And it was true. Like, I think generally, you know, after an hour swim practice, I'm ravenous. But like after swimming 18 and a half hours, I don't know what happened. My appetite was turned off for a couple days. I knew that I needed to eat something as soon as I finished. So like we had some food out for the crew, and I ended up eating like a wrap, but like it was hard to get it down. And then even the next morning we went for breakfast. I had eggs Benedict and it was delicious, but I wasn't like, it took me a few days for my appetite to kick in.
Weird.
It was very weird.
Do you know why that is? Like, having spoken to the marathon swimmers and experiencing it yourself, like, do you know why?
I don't.
Why do you think that is?
My best guess, I don't know for sure, is I kind of compared it to like, well, when I run, I'm not hungry after, and I think it's because it's a bigger effort. Like, I don't know if it's like the cardio or what, but it's a big effort, and it almost takes away this, maybe I'm too lazy to eat or too tired to eat. And I kind of think it's the same after swimming for that long. You're just like, oh, like I'm done. I don't want to do anything. And it was kind of like that, where it just took away my appetite. I don't have a good answer for you. That was it.
That's funny. How nice of a feeling was that to, like, when you hit the wall?
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm just gonna hang out here. Like, tell me about that. Like, that last little bit from that moment where you knew that you were gonna finish, right? Because I'm sure doubts creep in, and like the confidence takes over, and you're like, nah, I got this. But at what point were you like, it's there. I'm doing it.
It was actually a lot earlier than you'd think. I told my husband, Zach, that before the swim, I said, I don't want any updates. Don't tell me if I've done 5K, 10K. I only want to know when I'm over halfway.
Smart.
Yeah. And so sometime during the day, John, my swim master, said, Jill, Zach has something to tell you. And
no way.
And I look over and I was like, what? And he's like, you're more than halfway. You have less than 20K to go. And that's when I realized I'm doing this. Like, I know I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
Because it was over halfway.
That's crazy.
I'd already swam further than I ever have. I was at like 35 or so K.
Wasn't 9 your like max before?
9 hours.
9 hours, yeah.
9 hours. So I had swam a 25.5 kilometer swim. That was the longest swim before Lake Ontario.
9 hours in the water.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was the moment that I knew, I know I can do this. I've already done more than half. I know I've got enough left in me. I mean, there were a few bumps on the road, like between then and the finish, but I never lost faith in the fact that I was going to finish. Like, I always believed that I was going to finish it, even though things got really challenging towards the end. And swimming into the wall, the last like 3 minutes where I could see the people that were waiting and cheering for me to finish. I kind of paused about maybe 200 meters away from the wall, and I looked up and I saw everybody, and I just like, that's when the tears started to stream, like, holy shit, I've already done this. And then touching the wall, and as I kind of described it, it's the only way I've been able to describe it, because it's such a different feeling than anything else I've really experienced, aside from having a liver transplant, where you wake up the next day and you're like, wow, I have my life back. That's crazy. I felt like I had taken this trip around, like I'd gone to space or something, and I had landed. It's like, I'm back, and I did that. It was just it was mind-blowing, and I'm so glad that it was captured on film, because I saw the moment where I felt that in the video, where I was like, whoa, I just did that. Like, I just swam for 18 and a half hours,
Jeez.
And all that thinking and all of that preparing and all the work that I had put into doing this, it paid off.
Wow.
And it was like, and I think that's why I kind of stayed in the water for a few minutes after. Like, I had people ask me, like, I thought I'd be like getting out immediately. Why did you just hang out in the water? You were like treading water after. And I was like, I was taking it in. I was like, everybody's here cheering me on, and like this is the moment that I had been preparing for, and so I'm just gonna sit here for
savor
a couple,
yeah,
savor this moment,
keep
and
the light shining on you,
and take it in. And maybe it sounds selfish to some people, but hey, I felt like was worthy of a few minutes of of that.
I mean, I don't think you can achieve anything of much magnitude, let alone something of crazy magnitude like what you've done and what you're doing, without being selfish.
Yeah,
you
to
know
a
what I
point.
mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And selfish is just kind of a tricky word to use.
Yeah, it is.
Right? Because it's for something greater than yourself.
Yes.
But it's like you're doing this for you.
Yes.
You know?
And it's good you mentioned that, because I struggled with that a little bit in my training, because every day I was like gone for hours to train, and that felt selfish. I was like putting, my friends and family and other commitments aside. No, I have to go to the lake and train.
Yeah.
It felt selfish, but I had to remind myself that it wasn't. Yes, it was for me. Yeah. Yes, I was going to do this swim, but it was for a much bigger purpose.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just me. It was for others, and to inspire others, and for a bigger purpose than just a personal goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say selfish, there was moments where I felt like I was being selfish, but I think, like you said, when you're doing something big, you have to take that kind of time to prepare properly for it.
Right, and if you don't, then that whole plan to fail to plan type of thing, it's like you have to be selfish in that planning process and to get there, and I almost don't think it could be achieved to the level you want it to without it being like that, right? Like, you have to be selfish.
Yeah.
So.
And a side note, when there's so many other people supporting your goal and helping you, if you're not showing up 100%, like, what is that? Like, I didn't feel that was right for the people that were stepping up to help me. Right. Like, if I'm asking for their support in this, you have I need to show up 100% too, because otherwise, like, how is this going to happen if the team leader is like not doing their part, Yeah. So that was a part of my justification for being selfish, to train and to prepare. Yeah.
It's an interesting line, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the more I meet people and talk to people and have them on the show, or even just in person, or friends of mine I see them kind of go into this space of they're doing something, and they're doing it they want to hammer down and achieve this goal of, like, whether it be making it to the Olympics or like personal best or whatever it is, right? Or raising money for X, Y, Z. They can't do that. Like, Matt every day tells me, like, I have to get selfish when it gets to this point, or when it's like, it's for something else. And, like, don't feel bad though, right? Like, it's okay. You're allowed to be selfish. Otherwise, it doesn't reach the magnitude that it can. So.
Yeah, and people expect it, and that's something I didn't always didn't always remember, was that people expected me to be gone all the time and train. Yeah. Like, it would be weird if like a week went by and I wasn't doing my part. They'd be like, "Aren't you supposed to be doing that?"
Yeah. Like, well, my friends wanted to hang out for a bit, so
I got distracted, and yeah.
How important do you think growing up swimming was in terms of playing a role to you being able to accomplish this, like, years down the road?
I think it was huge. I've had a lot of people ask me, "Well, you must have swam as a kid," and not to say that I don't think it can't be done if you didn't grow up swimming, but I think that the foundation was there. And even when I returned to the water just shortly after my transplant, I felt like, kind of like getting back on a bike. Like, oh yeah, this is familiar. I had to work on my technique and and that, of course, and I did that for a few years before swimming across the lake. But I think the not just the physical part of being able to swim, but I think to be good at swimming, you really got to practice the discipline. And I think I had an early introduction to that as a young swimmer, to show up every day and keep practicing, because when you're out of the water for a few days, you lose your feel of the water.
Oh, for sure.
So I think to know, going into training for a lake crossing, knowing that discipline was such an integral part of the training, I think that really helped me out in the end. And freestyle was always my favorite stroke.
Nice.
So so I think that just translated really well, because you don't see a lot of people. There's a few, but you don't see a lot of people doing other strokes crossing lakes.
That's right, you don't. Yeah.
No. There are the Vicky Keiths that swim butterfly across
She's
Lake Ontario.
something else, though.
She's on another level.
Yeah, that's insane. Good for her.
Yeah.
I heard she mucked a Big Mac after too, or midway
it was
through
during.
something.
Yeah, she
it
told
was.
me that. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's. I don't even know what that is. That's insane.
She did the English Channel all butterfly too. Yeah. And so thinking about somebody like her in the middle of Lake Ontario really helped me.
Oh, I bet.
If somebody can swim butterfly across this lake, I sure as hell can swim freestyle across the lake.
Oh yeah.
Especially because the lake was giving me such great conditions that day. I'm like, I can't let this go to waste.
Yeah, I kind of didn't believe it was Lake Ontario when I saw how calm it was. I was like, this is
very,
so
very
clear.
lucky.
Yeah. What goes through your head during the swim when you're looking down into the abyss? Because this is the exact part that intimidates me about open water swimming. This is a selfish question.
No, that's fair.
I want to know.
You want to, to help you out in the future. Yeah.
Exactly.
I get that question a lot, and the best way I can describe it was like a big long meditation. It was focusing on my breathing, focusing on being in the present moment, not getting caught up in the doubts, not getting caught up in the thoughts of, I don't know if I can do this. It was really just focusing on what I needed to do in that exact second to get me to the next one.
Just one stroke at a time. Right?
Yeah. So really, I didn't think about anything that profound or didn't come up with any ideas. It was very much present the whole time, and I counted a lot. I counted my strokes. I counted to the next feed. I was taking a stroke every second. That was my stroke rate. So I was counting the time and counting time essentially, and trying to find a beat in my head. There was no what if thinking or doubtful thinking. I had practiced that in my training so that I was in a good place mentally when I swam the lake.
That's the whole mental training aspect.
Yeah.
Paid off.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Mm-hmm. Do you have kind of a whole kind of overarching lesson in regards to everything you learned from the process of dealing with the transplant to now? Do you have any as you kind of wrap it up, any pieces of wisdom or advice that you'd pass on to, whether it be somebody going through something similar you've been through, or somebody just even attempting the Great Lake, or just overall life in general?
There's a lot of little lessons, but to sum it up into one would be the power of stressing the importance of the power of our thoughts and what our mind, how powerful our mind is. That helped me tremendously getting through my illness and having a transplant, and through the swim. There's some parallels there for sure, where you're struggling through something to get to a better place, and not to underestimate the value of positive thinking, and also just being aware of the doubts that come up, like not believing in yourself, that can manifest and create bigger problems. So I think that would have to be the overarching lesson, was just mastering your mind and believing that you can do something, and being resilient when challenges come up and persevering through them.
Amazing. That was cute. Yeah. So where can people find you? Like, where can people find you? Where can they like see the documentary? Where can they donate?
Yeah, so people can find me online. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Jillian_best is my Instagram handle. Facebook, my name, my website, moveforlifefoundation.com. We're also on Instagram as well. Move for Life Foundation with a dot between each word. And people can donate on our website directly. We have some really cool news coming this spring in regards to the event that we're planning for 2022.
Excited.
Yes, it's very exciting. I can't give too many details yet. I have told some people. Yeah. So like the gist is a really big relay around Ontario.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
For you guys.
And yeah, I'm very open for people to, if you want to reach out, like message me on Instagram or Facebook. Like I'm an open book, and I like to help people reach their goals or see their potential. So
awesome.
I'm open.
That's amazing. So Jillian, I'm like beyond grateful for you inviting me to your home.
Yeah.
And introducing me to your people, your dogs.
My pugs.
You know. Yeah. And I'm really grateful for your time today. And thanks very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Awesome.